Vladimir Putin must be very worried about what's happening in Moldova right now. And according to reports, with 70% of the votes counted, there is already a clear lead for PAS, which is the ruling party. The pro-Europe party, which has a wide lead in Moldova's legislative elections, I insist, with the majority of votes already counted. The Party of Action and Solidarity, PAS, a pro-European Union party and the current ruling party in Moldova, is taking the lead in today's parliamentary elections on Sunday. According to reports, the next party, which is the other group that is pro-Russian, has 28%. In other words, the opposition, let's say, is pro-Russian and has 28%. They will have a percentage, quite a wide margin at this moment. And well, after that, it splits into multiple parties with different types of organizations, with different ideologies, some of which are not very clear. But, well, the PAS is fighting to maintain its parliamentary majority amid attempts by the pro-Russian bloc that is trying to remove the PAS from power. And the thing is, there's more and more intervention. And actually, well, thanks to the fact that today Moldova's elections had a high turnout, I mean, there were a lot of people voting in Moldova, that helped prevent fraud and prevented any kind of pressure to get votes for the pro-Russian party, since it's known that there's intervention or an attempt to intervene in the elections by Russia. Those accusations have already been made before, they've been seen, and there have even been people arrested who were involved in rigging elections. For now, well, the elections are going well. According to the reports, they've been peaceful. You can see people in line with their families, with their children. So, I mean, what we've been able to observe is that these have been good elections, at least so far. What also stands out is that the main question in these elections is whether the ruling Action and Solidarity Party, well, it will also manage to form alliances with other parties to make that position even more forceful and stronger. In the end, does Moldova have the idea of joining the European Union at some point? We have to remember that Moldova has had and still has problems with Russia. It's right next to Ukraine, and many believe that the next country Russia would invade would be Moldova. Yes, within Moldova there's Transnistria, which is a small population of Russian speakers, and they are semi-autonomous. That autonomy has enabled Russians to station soldiers in Moldova's Transnistria region. And that makes all of Moldova nervous, because one day they might want to conquer and take over all of Moldova. And so far, well, it hasn't happened, but it's something that worries people. And even the leader of the Party of Action and Solidarity, PAS, Igor Grosu, has accused Moscow of buying votes, trying to destabilize them, and making false bomb threats. Putin, on the other hand, is pushing tensions to the limit with Europe with drones and military flights over rural areas. They're testing NATO and have undermined European unity. Well, remember, some European Union countries like Czechia and even Hungary have leaned toward Russia. The president of Moldova, President Maya Sandu, has urged the population to save the country from what she called the Russian threat. The leader asked citizens to participate actively in the elections and warned that the nation could face consequences. And there aren't enough votes if there isn't a good turnout. So, well, it seems that people listened to their president's call and went out to vote in large numbers. She says, I have voted for a parliament that allows us to maintain peace, that respects the Republic of Moldova and its citizens, said Maya Sandu herself, as she cast her own vote into the ballot box. It is also known that these elections are being closely followed from the Kremlin. And well, on social media, there were lines and lines of people waiting for their turn to go vote. Obviously, well, no. In most places, things went smoothly. There were some places where the lines took a bit longer to move. And there is President Maya Sandu. Well, she's voting. It's possible that with these elections and what we're seeing now, we'll see changes in the coming months, in the coming years. Moldova is moving closer to the European Union. And by belonging to the European Union, this could bring enormous benefits to that country, since Moldova is considered the poorest country in Europe. And in this case, well, the polls seem to be right. Paz was ahead of the other party, the one on the left side. It was clearly decisive, with less voting intention. And well, that's how it's been so far. At this moment, the polling stations over there in Moldova are already practically all closed. The consulates that also have ballot boxes for voting are also closed. In Europe, the pro-European Union party PiS, led by President Maia Sandu, is on track to win the elections with 43.5% of the votes. At this moment, 70% of the votes have already been counted. And well, it's a victory for PiS. It would then be very likely that Moldova could join the European Union. Not until around the 30s, 2030 and beyond. Until late, it's not like it's going to happen overnight. But well, that's the direction this focus is heading. And well, we'll be seeing details, surely reactions from Russia. You know how this goes? No, it's not a topic that just ends like that. We'll be paying attention to see what more information comes out later. Meanwhile, a rather strange plan has been revealed. And just look far up north, yes, way up north. Here is Greenland on this side, but in this area there are some very large islands, these huge islands, yes, which are called Svalbard, yes. According to reports, it has been revealed that there is a plan by Vladimir Putin to take control of the Norwegian island. According to what is known, the Svalbard archipelago, located in the Arctic, almost 1,000 kilometers north of Tromsø in Norway, is one of the most remote and peculiar areas on the planet. Roughly 3,000 people live on those islands, known for strict policies. There, you can't be born or die in the place. You can't, that's forbidden, let's say, right? That area, the permafrost, prevents bodies from decomposing, making burial impossible. People just stay frozen there. It's not that they forbid people from dying, it's just that you can't die there. They die but are taken to Norway and not buried, as it's not permitted there. The local cemetery exists but hasn't accepted new bodies since 1950. And pregnant women have to travel to the mainland to give birth in Norway, not there. However, what seems like this quiet and frozen place is actually a haven for a B-series of oddities. Biologically, yes. It is also becoming a major geopolitical interest, especially for Russia. Moscow is using Svalbard as a stage for repeated provocations, taking advantage of its peculiar locations. Recently, the Kremlin accused Norway of militarizing the archipelago, something that could be used as a pretext for future military action. This Russian accusation revives tensions in the Arctic, a region that is key for maritime routes. Imagine Russia having a huge military base there. It would be massive. Obviously, this accusation is reviving tensions in the Arctic, a region that is key for maritime routes and natural resources and maneuvers. So, well, pay attention to what's happening on this island, in this place. It seems like it's something else. An ambition that is gaining more and more strength among the interests of Russia, the Kremlin, and Vladimir Putin specifically. So, keep an eye on that. Now let's move on to other important points as well.